Hello and welcome to Howard's Cave of Wonder. I'm Chris, aka Howard Blues, here once again to welcome you to Howard's Cave of Wonder, episode 2. That's right, sticking with us, continuing to try and make something of my hobby time and share. If you're new to the channel, thanks, welcome. Thank you for giving us a try and a click and a view, and hopefully you stick around. If you are new, I'm a little bit different of a hobbyer. This isn't meant to be a tutorial. It's not meant to be a news channel. This is really just me doing some hobbying, doing some painting, and talking about what I've been up to hobby-wise for the past 2 weeks. Talking about some interesting things. On this show, we'll be talking about Bardsung. That's the big Kickstarter that's out that I've got my eye on. So we'll talk a bit about that. Talk a little bit about Mythic Games, because there's some sad news, and it's making me rethink some things. So talking about that, I'm going to talk about painting with my kids, because I'm gearing up to do some painting with my kids, and some things I'm doing to try and make that happen. So that's just a quick rundown of the things I'm going to chat about. Hopefully this is something that you can watch or listen along to as you do your own hobbies, and we can all hobby together. And if you ever have a comment, a thought, or something that you want to share and be part of the show, hey, leave a comment down below. Love to get some audience participation in on this as we get this rolling. And speaking of participation, my one and only cheap plug, if you do want to become part of the community, I have created a Howard's Cave of Wonder group over on Facebook. Feel free to come over, join us. I'm hoping to develop a spot where people can just talk about their projects, what they're doing in the hobby world, and just have a good kind of community that brings people together. So that's my hope. We'll see how that works. But starting off tonight, I'm all set up, ready to go. And unlike episode 1, I'm trying something. I tried something last time and it didn't work. I tried to have a paint cam, and the technique I used did not really work out. So I'm trying a different setup here, and hopefully it'll work. So we have the paint cam down here, and you can actually see, and I don't know, maybe I'll get better. This is the best I could do. You can see my little Osmo camera right over there that's recording the face cam. There wasn't a great place for me to put that where it worked, where you could see my face but also see the painting. So hopefully that's not too distracting. But I'm geared up. I'll tell you about what I'm painting, but I always like to start off with what I'm drinking. And tonight I'm having my favorite. One of my favorites is the Finnish long drink peach. Wonderful drink if you like gin and if you like peach. That's what I'm sipping on as I do a little hobbying. But as I record this, it is Orktober, or Orktober. Anyway, and everybody's doing a lot of really cool stuff with orcs, and I thought I tried. I got this real thing that I should be doing something orc related, and I was going to do a whole maybe project on this guy. It's from Warhammer. He is the Goth Rocker miniature, and I had this great idea. I purchased a model airplane kit that I was going to use to kind of build him kind of a cool, like, assembled together stage and all of that, and then paint him on the show. And listen, life sometimes gets busy, so the Orc Rocker is Goth Rocker is going to have to it's just going to have to wait. And so then I was trying to figure out what else to do. Luckily, my overall project that I've been trying to work on is clearing my painting desk so that I have room to work on some other things, including episode 3 of this. I got a big project that I think will be fun and such, involving one of my favorite companies, Reaper Minis. And speaking of Reaper Minis, I have one of their miniatures here. He is an orc. He actually was on my desk. Yeah, and I forget the name, so hey, future Howard will put the name right up there so that you can see. But he is this orc mage from their game Warlord, which they no longer really make or do anything with. I just really liked this figure a lot, and thought it would just be a fun thing to paint up. And it's interesting. I bought him. He hung up on the pegboard wall in the cave for a while, and then I kind of forgot about him. And then I took him out and I got him all primed up and ready to go and all of that. And I forgot what he was. I forgot that he was actually an orc. I thought that maybe he was, just because of his size, that maybe he was some sort of like ogre or half giant or something like that. And I started with kind of an interesting paint scheme. I was going to start with this dark green and work on just painting him up actually closer to like a white or albino, which is why there's just this great contrast between the shadow crevices and this. And then I kind of like refound him to see what he was and saw that he was an orc, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, the green's working. But now I don't know what I wanted to do. So I'm going to try and work on him a little bit. You can see I've done some work. I really like the leather work that I've done on him. His staff is looking good. The jewel. Most of these are painted with speed paints just to try some things. I like his tongue, teeth. His face needs a little work. His hair needs some work. He's got some undead heads that are on here that need a little bit of touch up here and there. He's also got some blue tipped feathers, which is very familiar from the model I was working on last week, Marcus, which I'll get back to him. So I got some things that are looking really good. I got some things where I need to do a little bit better. Like there's this bag on the backside here that I clearly did not put any sort of coloration into before I started. So it's just like a brown glob. So I need to do something there. So a lot of bits and bobs and such. So I'm going to work on him. And depending on how that's going and the colors I'm using, I also have a second orc that I need to get off the desk. This is the orc boss from the original Dungeon Saga board game, which was put out by Mythic Games, and their new version is out. And I've been slowly working on trying to paint up the original Dungeon Saga, and so this guy's got a start. And that's a very loose kind of term. He's got some things kind of colored in, shaded in. Again, I was playing a little bit with the speed paints. And so I used some speed paint for his skin, for his cloak, the face of this kind of maw beast thing that he's wearing, and such. And it's all right. But he needs a lot of work too. So we'll see. If I have some colors that I think will cross over, you'll probably see me pick him up. But this guy is our main focus for tonight. So we'll get started in on him shortly. But I do want to share, because last week I said I was working on, from Weird Miniatures, Marcus the Beastmaster. And so I have gotten him to a state where I'm pretty much going to call him done. I'm pretty happy with him. I like the look. Are there things I could probably add on to? Sure. But I'm really happy with him. There's just a few things left to do. Let's see, I'm out of focus. I am planning to add some like tufts of grass and such to his base to try and bring his base a little bit more to life with that. But otherwise, I'm kind of leaving it kind of plain. I might add a little bit of texture such here and there just to muck it up and, again, break up this very flat plane. And then it's really just shading the or painting the rim black. But it's very happy. Of course, with every miniature, there's always stuff you wish you could do a little bit better or differently. I did go with this interesting red. This necklace that he wears In the original art, it's supposed to be white. It's supposed to be, your classic teeth or, whatever. And I decided, this maybe shows to another hobby. My good friend Kidder and I, we tend to watch wrestling. It's a thing we've done since high school together. And the character of Roman Reigns, when he was in his tribal chief, he had this kind of necklace of what looked always like chili peppers. And so I decided to go with that kind of a Roman Reigns-esque feature. Why? I don't know. It seemed interesting to me at the time. So that's what I'm going to be painting on as we get going. And let's maybe get some started. So the first thing I want to tackle, and I think it's a good thing, this guy's got 3 heads, severed heads attached to him. One on the back here, one here, and then one right up here. And I don't know why, but for some reason I painted them green, which is a terrible idea because the whole model is green. So I need to fix that a little bit, and I am going to try and find a nice, excuse my reach, moldy skin. I'll hold it up here on the paint cam so you can see it. But from Reaper Miniatures, moldy skin. It's kind of a greenish, which I know I said I was getting away from green. It's still a greenish color, but it's got a little bit of a tan to it. So we're going to start with that, and then I'll probably try to highlight it with a bit of a white, and then give it kind of a cool color wash, maybe like a blue, something to, again, kind of color it in a way that doesn't look like living flesh. That's the goal. That's the idea. Will it work? That's the fun part of painting. Try again. You don't just master anything the first time. It takes a little work. So mix this up. And we'll get started on here, and hopefully this will stay in focus, and I apologize if it doesn't. But I'm just going to come in, and because this is shrunken head flesh, I am not worried so much about nailing all of the details 100% perfectly. This is kind of replacing my base color a little bit. I got a little too much paint on the old brush. So I just kind of want to start coloring it. And I don't even mind if a little bit of that green sticks through. So there's that guy. Up here. Trying not to get it on the guy's finger. I want to avoid that gem. Excuse me while I adjust. Trying to figure this all out, paint setup wise, and all of that. So I'm already liking this. There's a touch better, and just like I said, hey Howard, don't get any of that up on the guy's finger. Well, I did. So just water to my brush. Just come in, wipe it back off. And again, I'm not looking for perfect. These are decapitated faces. I'm not trying to. Now, usually when I paint, I'm very much a detail guy, which means that if there's a detail on a miniature, I'm gonna try and paint it. I've never understood the people who can look at a miniature and go, I got my 3 colors on it, it's done. I kind of view, and I know some people talk about, well, there's too much detail on miniatures these days. It makes it too hard, too complicated. I actually like having more detail than not. I just feel like it, I don't know. I feel like I can become a better painter or come off as a better painter when I'm painting more detail than less. I don't know. It's my take. on it. So, okay. Great. It's a great start. Let's take a little break here and talk about Bardsung. I didn't want to put it off too late into the video. I wanted to get that up and rolling pretty quick because it's a Kickstarter that's on a very short time period. I shouldn't say Kickstarter. It's on GameFound, which doesn't have as great of a thing. You can't just say, there's a GameFound game. It just doesn't work. Like Kickstarter, they chose the right name for that. It's just perfect. And if you've never heard of Bardsung, and I always have to be careful because I'm not going to lie. To me, I've always wanted to call this game Bardsung. And for some reason, I really struggle with the fact that it's Bardsung. I get the point. The whole idea of the game is you're trying to be a hero that becomes Bardsung. The sung, you know, your stories, your adventures, your exploits sung by a bard. I get it. It's just there's a disconnect in my brain. I always want to call it Bardsung. Yeah. Anyway, Bardsung was created by Steamforged Games. And this came out in 2020 during the pandemic was when the Kickstarter ran. And you can see here, inspired songs, live your legend in the cooperative RPG Dungeon Explorer for 1 to 5 players. Okay. And I'm not going to lie, I was pretty big into this. I backed it. I was excited about it. It's one of my weaknesses. It's a dungeon crawler, and I like dungeon crawlers. I just do. There's something about the story element, the puzzles, the combat. It emanates with me. And I think part of it also is because I haven't had a decent role-playing group for a while now, and so the thought is I'm hoping that playing something like this scratches that role-playing itch a little bit. I know it's not a perfect role-playing shift, but let's just start. So Bardsung, just to run through this, it was an interesting campaign. It's kind of procedurally generated. So as you go, you draw cards, either tiles or not tiles, corridors or rooms. I will get my terminology correct. If you're wondering why I maybe make that mistake a little bit and why I'm not an expert, one, I've always said I'm not a news expert. Two, even though I have this game, I have yet to play it. And in fact, I have done so much as taking the shrink wrap off the main box. I think I was going to try to basically get everything to fit in the main box. And then I opened it up and I started looking at it and I'm like, ooh, this is a big thing. I don't think I'm actually in the mood to tackle that. And I just put it back on the shelf. But really, what got me to this was, again, that it was cooperative, the fact that it was a dungeon crawler, but mostly it was these beautiful, beautiful miniatures that were coming out for the game as I quickly kind of go through it. I was a sucker for it. I liked the fact that they had different heroes. You might have seen that two of the heroes, one was a crow or a raven person, another was a tortoise person. Here you can see there's a dragonborn and a centaur. It had cool different heroes. It had really cool monsters. I liked it. And that was kind of it. It's like I like these things. As I kind of quickly, as I said, scroll through this, you can see. And even though some of these are classic things like wolves and Grell, it's Steamforged Games, and I will admit, I never got into their soccer game. That one's going to bug me that I don't know it off the top of my head, because I do know it. It's really cool. It was a soccer game. I loved the miniatures. It's like a medieval soccer version of Blood Bowl, but these Guild Ball. There we go. Got there. I really liked these miniatures. They were great. They were fantastic for a fantasy setting. I couldn't justify buying those miniatures because I didn't want to play the game. I just wanted to paint them. And so this a game more likely for me to play. Again, has some cool kind of miniatures. They had a bunch of famous people writing for it. I didn't care about that part. That part did not interest me whatsoever. And overall, so it was a fun little campaign. Fast forward, and Steamforged Games is bringing out a standalone follow-up to Bardsung. It's called Bardsung: Tale of the Forsaken Glade. And I saw this come out, and I was like, I don't know. At first, I was a little leery, but you can see it's doing very well, at least in my opinion, very well on GameFound. It's got 10 days left at the time of the recording, so hopefully by the time this gets out, there's still some time in case you want to see it. And there's plenty of other videos out there that could probably go more in depth onto Bardsung. I'll try and give you my basic feel for it. Coming down, you can see 1 to 5 players again, playtime of about 45 minutes. There's a deluxe pledge, and then I believe that they have just kind of a basic pledge. Here you can see our heroes. You can see cover art, and we can see some of the beautiful, beautiful miniatures. This time, where the first Bardsung was about Bardsung and the Ancient Forge, and you were going into an underground fortress and all of that and solving kind of a mystery. This time we're now in the forest. So different setting, so different types of monsters to fight. We see our heroes in that yellow plastic. Yeah, they've fixed some of the gameplay. I do have to mention, this game, the original Bardsung, won an Ennie. So other people thought it was good too. We have our, there's hero customization with it, artwork. I love this monstrous black dragon miniature. I think that is awesome. A little fire song miniature. I mean, that's a hero. That is a halfling who throws fire riding a molten lava goat. I mean, that's just awesome. I don't care who you are. It's awesome. And continue down. They've been doing these choose your hero things, and I'll come back to that. There's a free upgrade pack, so that if you backed the original Bardsung, this upgrades that original to kind of the new rules, the streamlined rules. Because the one thing that the original Bardsung got kind of dinged for was that it was very grindy. You had to kill a lot of things to move on, and it had a little bit of sameness. It was that. So they tried to fix that feeling. We have our pledge levels. So there's the hero pledge for 140, which kind of comes with the game and the one expansion, 40-hour campaign, the Legends expansion, and then there's the deluxe pledge at 255. Has those kind of everything in the first one, plus the Futile Crusade expansion, which adds another 15 hours of gameplay, and has this really cool deer knight hulking thing. That thing is awesome. That's exciting. I want to paint that. And then also some other upgrades. I don't care about the other upgrades, but I do like that Crusade. So yeah, a lot of different things with that kind of story arc. There's another thing. Oh, just how great that is. It gives me Pan's Labyrinth vibes. That's just cool. We have our heroes, so the Fire Soul, the Skull Splitter, which has this really kind of, again, it was just a cool model. I like the skull with the horns wrapped around him and these big axes that are like, no person should ever wield those. They're not realistic. I don't care. They're fun. Hang on here. Trying to do this. I gotta get myself a better mouse for doing this. We have the Demon Blade, which that's cool. The Dawn Guard with pauldrons that are so big they could neither look left nor right. And then the Path Seeker, which It's kind of the most boring of all these models. Yeah, he's different. I'll give it that. It was just compared to the other ones that kind of have this real epic feel. Not so much on that one. But it talks through kind of how you go. You choose your hero, you customize, you can multi-class, you earn fate that allows you to use different abilities, you explore. How you explore, you draw from a deck of cards, so it's going to be different every time. The marching order, which is important. There's intelligent combat, so the combat is more puzzly and such. So it's fun if you like puzzles, challenges, NPCs. There are boss encounters like this Packmaster War Chief. I mean, that model just looks epic. Resources. Oh, again, the miniatures on this look amazing. And I like the fact that not all of them are just classic monsters. There's some different stuff in there. So they have some different add-ons and such that can be added to the game as you want. And then we get into the unlocks. And this is where I will say, I have not enjoyed this unlock thing. So it started in one of their first updates. They did this whole, you can unlock by picking a hero. And they gave us 4 heroes. You can see 3 of them. The 4th one got selected. It was this, we'll maybe see a bit of art for, or you may have saw it earlier. If not, Future Howard will put it in here. It was a kind of a raven skull masked necromancer. Pretty cool. But what they did was they put out a poll and you voted, and whatever ended up last, which ended up the first time being the druid here, was then eliminated. And then they put out another thing where, okay, now you get to vote on the other 3 again, but like the necromancer won like handedly. And so it's like you're trying to draw this out that way, and I didn't like the fact that they were like, well, the figures that aren't selected are gone forever, which I didn't like. So they did that a second round, and then I think that they kind of figured that out, and they just chose to go with a necromancer after that and not do a third round of. Well, actually, no, they did set up for a third round of voting because it got down to necromancer and the halflings, and they didn't do that one for very long, and they selected the necromancer. And then later today, at the time of recording, they put out this one where now there are more options. So the druid is back, the knight on the boar is back, the halflings are back, but they've added this guy with bare arms, which I think is awesome. They added this mechanic wandering kind of samurai guy. Okay, he's a close second for me. This weird toad alchemist big arm guy, not my favorite. And then they have this kind of angel guy, which is all right. Also not my favorite. I really like, as I said, the mechanic wandering guy, the bare armed guy, and I still like this druid that was eliminated. And I even like the knight on a boar. Like, those are mine. But to put those up, and we'll see what comes of that. The other thing that they have been doing with this, I'm sorry that my scrolling is a little crazy, is they do these updates where they give you this long narrative story and then they give you a choice and you have to vote. And I don't like it. I don't. It's an interesting. I remember they did something like this with the last Bardsung campaign, and I remember not liking it then because there's a part of me that deep down is a completionist, and I hate the idea of missing content. And so these things where it's like, vote for the character, you're not all these are going to get made. I have a hard time with it. There's a part of me that's like, no, I want all these cool things. But we'll see. So far, we've unlocked the Stoneheart and the Lightweaver. Both pretty cool. The one thing I will say, and as you can see as I can scroll, there's some more videos and some basics about crowdfunding and some close-ups of some of the miniatures, which again are just beautiful. I like this guy, this elf lounging on this kind of like one-horned woolly rhino. It's pretty cool. So overall, like, I'm excited. The one thing that is missing so far that I mentioned with the original Bardsung was the original Bardsung had some just different races, some interesting kind of things with like the turtle guy and the crow guy and the dragonborn and the centaur, things that we don't get in a lot of dungeon crawls because we end up always with the dwarf and the elf and the ranger, and like we end up with the usual. And I feel like that's missing from this. I just don't feel like we're getting quite as unique of characters. I mean, these ones aren't bad, what they've done for heroes. They're just not great. Getting back to the painting, I'm going to try and add a little vampiric skin to my moldy skin, just to lighten it up. It's kind of a, how do I describe this color? There's some slight like purplish tones to it, which I think will play well. As I said, I'm doing a simple highlight on these faces because I don't like, again, they're not the showcase of this orc, so I don't want it to be. So water, get my orc guy back. So just want to come in here and just try to pick out bits and bobs. And one thing I'll say that I have found, I used to be much more into the technique of you base coat and then you apply your wash and then you come back in with a highlight. And I always had a problem with that, especially with lighter colors and using washes, because it never failed where I always just kind of felt like it always ended up with a like ruining the base coat. Because like if you have a white and then you run kind of a brownish color over it, or even a like a dark gray or some kind of wash, it just like it ruins your white. I mean, it's so dirty and so grungy that you had to come back. And so I've really had to kind of work on that, and I try to spend more time trying to blend my stuff a little bit more. But again, even with like this project, and again with these features that I'm kind of going in and just putting in a little bit, again, I'm not trying to overdo it, the highlight. These aren't the main features that I think people are going to really look at, and it's not that I don't want to spend time on them. I just don't feel like I need to get to the point of having them so pristine, and do too much with them. I want them to stand out a little bit. I want them to maybe catch your eye just a little bit. But again, I don't want them to take away from the big dude. That, he's the reason, he's the model. I just want to, again, trying to just create some interest in it. So I'm already liking these pretty well. Like I said, I might add one more highlight layer. But I may also just put on my wash. We'll see. Looking good. Looking decent. It's got just enough of a sickly green color that I like. Now, one of the things I got to figure out is the hair on these things. Because like with this guy, he's so surrounded by brown. I don't really want to add more brown to it. I don't really want to add a lot of black to it either. So let us figure out something for that. For a nice hair color. That's not brown. I think for my guy that is up here, my face that's up here, because of that red, I'm gonna just go dwarf on it. And I think to do that, I'm gonna start in with a little Reaper Auburn Shadow, and then we'll work our way to Carrot Top Red. Give it a little shake because I haven't painted red hair for a while. And hey, speaking of painting, I'm going to be doing some painting hopefully this weekend with my kids. We actually did some painting the last weekend. We painted pumpkins with my kids. And that was a lot of fun. My kids get really excited about painting, which I'm super happy and thrilled about. But, they're very abstract in their painting, which is okay. They're kids. And we just had fun with it, painting pumpkins. This is actually the first year that we've done it while I've been around. And so I actually got to paint a pumpkin, and you'll get to see it here. It's this lovely Sasquatch. It was fun to just paint with them and just have some fun with it and seeing their creativity and such. But my kids also wanted to paint a figure. My daughter has seen when I've been maybe scrolling Facebook or things like that, and she sees all the miniatures that show up in my feed and looks at them, and she made the comment about how she wanted to paint a mini. And I'm all for encouraging them to do that. So I needed a mini for them, and I've been looking, and then it just so happens that at the beginning of October, Reaper announced their usual October kind of giveaway, their ghoulie bag, and I wanted to get one because it has this really cool bat eating a candy corn, really cute, fun model. I was like, I'd like to get that. I'd like to paint that. And so I made an order, and it turns out that beyond the ghoulie bag, I qualified for some other free miniatures. Partially because I ordered so much, and part of why I ordered so much is Reaper put out a bunch of models of cryptids. So Sasquatch, Chupacabra, the Mothman, all of these. I thought they looked so much fun to again paint. I kind of like kind of the whole cryptid thing. I've always been big into monsters and such, and so I thought, I'll just pick these up. They'll get painted eventually. Realize I have a little bit of skin on the back side here. I'm just gonna tie that up. So I ended up with 2, and I decided I would get some things for my kids to partake in, and they got to choose. And luckily, the free other promo minis that you got were some miniatures that Reaper did called the Bones of Villains, and they're kind of chibi style classic horror monsters. My son chose Tut. He's the mummy. And I've already taken these. I actually took, because they're the classic Reaper Bones material, I primed them, got them good, and covered in brown liner. And then I just did a dry brush. I'm going to let my kids paint these with speed paints, and so I thought I would just kind of do the old slap chop. And that. And so my daughter picked up, I believe this is Tish, who is really just a female vampire, but as she's been calling it, a mommy. So we have a mummy and a mommy, and that's cute. I don't care who you are. That's absolutely cute, and I'm going to have some fun with that. So, looking forward to doing some painting with my kids. I think we're going to have just a grand old time getting to do that. Okay, adding a little of that carrot top red into my auburn. And again, I'm not looking for a perfect blend. These are just kind of some features. I just want to add just a little bit of hair color to them. A little bit of a highlight to them. Just trying to make it a little bit more. So as I do this, one thing that I don't know, I've kind of learned, it's so tempting with things like hair that sticks up like this, to highlight every strand of hair, but you don't actually want to do that, is what I've kind of come to learn. If you do that, you end up it looks a bit just unnatural. So you want to think about light. And so I try to find the kind of the raised areas of the hair. And that's where I try to put it. So down here at kind of the tip of it, where it's in the light and kind of bulging out, yeah, I want to hit more of it. In here where it's kind of creased, I don't really want to hit more, but where it's kind of bulging out like that, yeah, just a fair little bit. And not highlighting all of it, because again, I want it to have a certain look about it. You know, kind of focusing more in on the crown of the head. And already that's starting to look great. I like the look of it. It adds, just as I said, another color. Not that I want to go too color crazy, but having another color kind of helps break up some things. Okay. One of the things that's on this bottle is there is a lot of fur that's kind of sticking out here and there. And I think I kind of want to hit that with a white type of fur. And so being a big fan of using and reusing colors, and just knowing that I can tint and do other things with it, I'm actually going to use my vampiric skin moldy flesh kind of mix, and I'm just actually going to use that to kind of start putting some color down for the fur. So I'm starting with this chunk that's kind of between his legs. I used a big brush there because it was a big chunk. Switch back to my little brush. And the thing is, like, the fur on this guy is all just kind of sticking out from behind things. So there's like a little patch here, then it sticks out down here, kind of out from under this leather. And I'm going to do this because I know, and that's what I like about reusing colors. So I know I can get away with doing this because when I go to put in my washes and my shades, I will use different washes and different shades on my fur sections, and that will mean that it'll come out with a different tint than, say, my zombie faces, or I call them zombies. They're not zombies, but my decapitated heads. And so knowing that, I can use a different shade. I can get this little chunk in here. That's a great way for me to reuse a color that I have mixed. It's not a bad color. I'm not worried that I just totally obliterated that leather strap that's there, because that's a fixable thing. And truthfully, that leather strap was kind of close to my my new hair color on that guy. And I had not painted it on this side, so that's okay. Because see, it's right in there. But again, that's okay. So just knowing that I can shade this with a different wash and get a different color, to me that works. See, and I'm just going to continue that fur. I mean, some of that could be the guy's hair, some of it could not be. But I'm just going to paint it as this fur color. Why? Because it adds some interest to it, and I'm okay with that. Here on the front, we have a lot more of the fur going, and I'm not even so much worried if I get like inside all of the crevices on this. If it comes out a little bit darker, that's okay. And you can see I have some leather and such that's just kind of been missed. So I'll have to kind of deal with that at some point. It is kind of interesting, like as you spend more time, especially with the model up close, you go, oh, here's a spot I missed. Here's a problem I hit. That's part of it. One of my favorite parts, actually. As frustrating as it might be, like, oh, I have to fix this or fix that. There's just a real kind of, I don't know, satisfaction that you can get when you go, okay, here's what's left on a miniature, and I'm just knocking those things off. Just tick, 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 tick. One thing at a time. But, yeah. I think that brightness of that fur, that yellow, those yellow tones, they're coming in from stuff I was using. I think that's, again, it's helping with all this green. And we have kind of our first color, where our captain can get a little love. Because he too has some fur on here that is a different fur from the mantle, I'm going to call it, that he's wearing. And so I'm just going to kind of come in and touch up his fur and put in this yellow kind of color to it as we try to finish him up too. And I got a little extra water on my brush right now, but I'm kind of okay with that if it kind of goes into the crevices and such. And hey, speaking of things that are maybe not quite right or not quite fixed, I'm just gonna cover right there. All right. Now he's got a little bit of extra because that, as I said, he wasn't bad. He needs some help. So also talking about hobby stuff and what I've been up to besides finishing Marcus. I've been doing a lot of assembly at work because that's just where I get things done. And for the most part, like I've been doing stuff with Cursed City. I recently got in and completed the White Dwarf from the commemorative issue 500 of White Dwarf by Games Workshop. So I got him all assembled and ready to go. I mean, there's probably a little bit of green stuff and gap filling to do, but then we will paint this guy to go into Cursed City because there are rules for him to be a one-man army in that. So we'll be doing that. But mostly what I have been doing when I am assembling at work is a little game called Marvel Crisis Protocol. And so I assemble these at work or on my lunch hour. I can usually get about 2, maybe 3, depending on the complexity of the model. And I do this at work on assembling them, and then I transport them in. I just have this. It's an index card box I got from Walmart. It travels in my backpack. It works pretty well. Some people are cringing because it's like, Howard, you got to protect your model so they don't break. I have yet to have anything break, but I also try to be very gentle with my stuff. So like, as I'm coming in today, we have a couple of things. We have Vision. There we go. He was kind of a tricky model to assemble. Just trying to get that knee joint to stick into that wall. There's a little bit of a gap there you can see kind of by my thumb. That'll need a little bit of fill. We had the Winter Soldier because they came as a boxed set. So got him completed. He was a pretty fast assemble, and I'm pretty happy with it, especially because I hate assembling guys who are holding a gun with 2 hands because it never goes together smoothly. It's always a pain. So I'm glad he got. And then my next one, which is a bit of a hobby challenge. This was the complex model. This was Storm. I had already done Cyclops from their box. So here was Storm. And I know it's hard to see here as I hold it, but as I show a picture, for some reason, I got this weird bend where she's leaning to the right, and my camera is going to adjust so you can't quite see, but it's like she's leaning just a little bit like this. And so one of the things I'm going to do as we sit here is I'm hopefully going to try and glue. I tried to actually glue her at work to get her to stand up just a tish straighter, and that just didn't work. So my goal is there's right in here on this beam. She's not supposed to be connected to it, but there's a nice flat spot. And just with that lean, I just am hoping to just bring her over and just hook her feet maybe into like this rock or such, and just get her to stand up just a tad bit straighter because it is bothering me. So let's put a little glue. And for my buddy JS, he gets the chance, if he's watching, to enjoy a opportunity for Howard to glue his fingers together, because there's nothing that JS likes better. And so a little bit there. I'm just going to put a little bit right in kind of that crevice there. And we're just going to try, I'm going to try and push kind of that. Like, I want to push her foot over. And hopefully, no, maybe I don't need that crevice. Maybe if I go like that. And now we wait, because glue is never as fast to dry. I could use baking soda to speed up the process, but we'll just have to wait. So I had some acquisitions come in, had some purchases that arrived. The big one that I got was a shipment in from GW, Games Workshop. So opening this up, the first thing that you'll see, I finally broke down and bought the starter, 2-player starter for Warhammer Underworlds. I finally bought this. I have picked up a couple of the kits. I've been really hesitant to get into Underworlds, really for 2 reasons. One, it was kind of pricey when it first came out. And there just wasn't a lot of gameplay to it, so I didn't get started right away. But the thing that I didn't realize was that it was going to be this like seasonal thing where there'll be different starter sets, there'll be different teams, and they'll be out for a while, kind of like in a wave. Think of it like if you know Magic the Gathering, they do like the set, right? And there's your set, and it's in standard for so long, and then it's gone. And that's what they do with this. The set comes out. So you might have a set like Dire Chasm or Nether Maze or Beastgrave. And these come out and they do teams specifically for that, and then they go away. One of my favorite designed teams, actually, that was for Warcry. But that was the Corvus Cabal. But there's just been some. And so I've picked up a couple of these teams just for the models, which are cool. So I have the Hexbanes, which are these kind of cool Witch Hunter guys. So I picked these up because, again, they're just kind of fun. They're I like the look of them, the style of them. They're fun. I have an Orc one that I have. So I've been picking those up, and to me, it's just one of those things. Get the game. My voice is only going to hold out for so much longer. I've been talking for nearly an hour. So let's kind of maybe wrap some of this up. So that came in. The other thing is, at night, I have been reading Dan Abnett's Eisenhorn novels. I bought the omnibus a couple months ago, and I'm reading through it, and I'm really enjoying it. Once you get past the steep learning curve of all of the Warhammer tech and slang, it's an excellent read. It's a fun read. These are like a noir detective, but with, sci-fi and alien tech, and it's just, they're fun. I've been enjoying them. So I went on and I picked up this Inquisitor, but more importantly, I bought the Eisenhorn model. And yes, I know this is not a great reveal because it's in a black box. I hate the JW black boxes. So here's a picture of the of the model and a picture of the book cover, and I'm looking forward to getting that. But that's kind of the acquisitions. There'll be some more coming in. Just as another quick bit of news, because I said I would talk about Mythic Games. It seems like Mythic Games, at least the French division of it, is going into liquidation, which means that their Monsterpocalypse Kickstarter is probably dead and gone, which is a shame, and I'm really upset about it, and here's why. I went in all in on that Kickstarter, and yeah, okay, so I'm going to lose some money. My bigger problem is that because I went all in on that, I thought I was going to collect all of, or a good chunk of, because there was still new stuff that came out, of Monsterpocalypse. And so I stopped buying Monsterpocalypse from Privateer Press because it's like, I'm going to get this board game set and I will be happy enough with that. But now I'm not getting that. And Privateer Press, has kind of been diminishing as a company. They sold off War Machine and kind of that IP and everything that goes with it to Steamforged Games, who are doing some great stuff. But now Monsterpocalypse is in this limbo. So I've actually been spending some time going through what I do have and kind of making a checklist, and then trying to pick up some more of Monsterpocalypse, because I truthfully, I really got into Monsterpocalypse because I have a son who I just know is going to love kaiju. Like, I can just tell. And the idea of playing giant, stompy monsters fighting over a city with him, I was sold on this is going to be a core family moment. This is going to be things that I'm going to enjoy, and now that's kind of been robbed from me. So I'm trying to pick up stuff. I'm trying to track it down, trying to find things and complete that collection. So there'll be more of that coming. I've been talking for quite a while, folks, and yes, I know I didn't do as much painting. It'll take me a little bit to get used to all of this and showing stuff and painting and all of that. But I do appreciate you sticking with me. I do hope that you found this to be entertaining while you do your own painting or your own hobbying, whether it's sleeving cards, doing a little bit of ground maintenance on that board game to get it all to fit in one box, or painting your own thing. Hopefully you have enjoyed our time together, and hopefully you will be back. So thank you for taking the time. If you made it this far, kudos. I appreciate you. I hope you're having a great time. So come back. As I said, I put these out every other week, and hopefully, as this builds, we get a bit of a community growing with it, and we can all enjoy time here in Howard's Cave of Wonder. So, with that, I get to say good night, because as you can see by my window, it is nighttime. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning into Howard's Cave of Wonder, and we'll hopefully see you back down here in the cave next time.